Hey guys, welcome back to the American Don Show. It is a beautiful April 15th, 2025. It's tax day.
Oh, no, I
I-
forgot about that.
right. Hope you guys got your taxes already. Hey, I just want to have a guest on our show today we're going to talk about, and I've asked her to come out. So Dr. Kelly Kohls is the Executive Director of the National School Boards Leadership Council. That's NSBLC, an organization dedicated to training school board members to enhance accountability, fiscal responsibility, and academic excellence in public education. Kelly, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to go out there and tell people what they need to know about public education these days.
I've seen you before. I met you a couple years ago at the farm. You were talking at the We the People meeting.
Yes.
That's
I
when we
remember
first.
that. I've spoken there several times, and I really enjoy that place.
Well, I'm sure they want you back. I know that. Everyone enjoys you when you talk.
It's an enjoyable visit for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kelly's fine. Kelly's
One of the reasons we're bringing Kelly onto the show is there's a lot of stigma about what we're allowed to say in school board meetings, what we're not allowed to say in school board meetings. And there's people that are afraid to run for school board meetings because of this problem. I'm a person that wants to stand tall. I'm a person that says something don't pass the smell test.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Right? Something's wrong. And I'm just not a guy to step back. And I know in 2020, this first hit my daughter. This is when I first started paying attention.
Yeah.
And my daughter came home. Schools were banned, right? They had to do homework from home. And I went in to sit and watch my daughter on one of these Zoom calls. And she's like, "You're not allowed to be in here, Dad." And literally, you're not allowed to watch. So I stepped out and I thought, oh, no way.
Yeah.
No way. So I got me a little tea and I sat outside and I listened.
It didn't pass your smell test.
It didn't pass my smell test. And my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, well, I want to follow the rules. However, something's not right that my dad can't even listen to what 2 + 2 is."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I dug deeper and I was like, this is just wrong. So I emailed the teacher. Teacher's like, "We really rather you not be listening." And I'm like,
Flag.
I have a problem, right?
Red flag.
Right. And
Yeah.
since I coached football in the school district, I contacted the superintendent and he knew me really well, firefighter. And I'm like, this ain't right. He goes, we're in a gray area.
We're
Yes.
not.
All the you can give us and we take. And I'm like, okay, I understand. So then I was watching and she had to take a survey. What do you think about black people? What do you think about queer people? And my daughter called me into the room and asked me to sit to the side. And she goes, how do I answer this? And I went, first off, this is not the 3 R's.
Not academic.
This is not reading, writing, arithmetic, and I'm not happy with this. That's when I started to come to listen to people like you.
Yeah.
And you brought so much clarity for me. And I want you to know that when I first saw you speak, you moved me.
Thank you.
And I could say, oh my gosh. And then we got involved and got some people started to run for school boards. And I have a friend that got on a school board and completely got attacked for trying to stand tall in the conservative values.
Yes.
And our godly principles. And he said, you have no idea. And they went after him.
You have no idea.
And they went after his children. And it's quietly, it was just a quiet, it wasn't an outwardly, I can file a charge against you for this thing.
Yeah.
It was a college scholarship and this and this. And then it was just, and he was bombarded with emails from people. And it's the old book, Rules for Radicals, written by Saul Alinsky. Go look that up. Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. And this is their playbook and how they attack. And all of a sudden he was attacked. Public image. And you can't file character defamation charges. Yeah. It was a scare tactic, and he got scared. So as I followed you, I was like, so let's just talk today. Let's just be very elementary. What's the purpose of a school board?
The school board is elected by their community to represent the community on behalf of the kids. So the community tells these school board members, go in there and represent us and watch out for our children. And we're going to tell you how we want you to do that. And so the school board member who might feel like my job is to represent myself, that's not true. Your job is to represent the community. Always remembering that the people inside the district already have representation. It's the people outside the district that do not. Wow. So when you speak, you're speaking on behalf of your citizens. It's not your
elected
opinion.
Officials.
I'm just representing my community. Wow. And that's what I did. So I was on a school board for 4 years in Springboro, and I had all those attacks as well. I think they are definitely getting worse, and we have to find ways to help board members combat that by having community members who support the good school board members to be in the audience or write the thank you notes and things like that. We have to have the other side, because what we've got now is a room full, typically, a room full of bullies and a room full of very noisy people. But those noisy people don't represent the masses. They will never represent your community. I tell board members all the time, your community probably won't be in that boardroom because they're working hard to make ends meet. And they're raising their children, they're raising their family, and they've got lots of worries. They hired you to speak for them. So don't ever think they're going to be in the room. But the people who have an agenda will be in the room to tell you off. And they'll be out there trying to cancel you. There's a whole lot of things. You said something earlier about cancel culture, but there's virtue signaling. There's a Darvo effect. There's all kinds of things that they train on. Darvo effect, the struggle sessions, they have names for all of what they do. They've practiced a methodology to bully our school board members. But what a school board member has to do is just remember, I'm here to represent my community. You don't all have to like it. I may not run again, and that's okay. I didn't run again because I saw what I needed to see. I knew that at that point, I needed to go out there and start telling people what I saw. And I knew that I was there for that 4 years to learn what they're doing. And they're not a child-focused or a student-focused center. They're not. They're an adults-focused center. And what we need to do is start making that whole mindset go towards what's good for these children. How do we get academics back as the focus within our public schools? Because it's not there now. It's about hoarding the money for the adults. Just saying. That's exactly what I saw. So I am teaching people how to be good school board members, and that's to follow the purpose. There is not a ORC code, an Ohio Revised Code, telling school board members what their job is. So what happens in Ohio, because there is no revised code, is that board members rely on the Ohio School Board Association, who takes them away for their first weekend on the board, takes them away to train them on what makes a good school board member. So unfortunately, our school board members are listening to that coach, and that coach tells them the wrong thing. And there were many times during that weekend with Ohio School Board Association, and every state has one of these, that ushers the school board member into these meetings over a weekend and tells them, here's how you be a good school board member. And I thought during that whole weekend, oh my gosh, I left there really sick to my stomach because I knew I was not going to be a good school board member because none of what they were saying passed my smell test. They said lots of things. School board members, candidates, if you're going to run for school board, don't listen to what they have to say. A lot of what they have to say is about executive session and Ohio Revised Code and how the school district has to, do financially. And a lot of it is logistically good, but so much of it is embedded, much like our curriculum these days, in an ideology that doesn't fit what the community's hiring you to do. For example, the Ohio School Board Association told us that weekend that our job was to be a cheerleader for their district. Wrong. That is not why you're there. Not to be a cheerleader for your district. Wrong. That your job was to show a united front. Again, not why you're there. You're there to show if the state of Ohio just wanted one voice, have a united voice, they would only have one school board member. They have 5 because there are 5 distinct, segregated, entitled voices at that table. Some of the larger districts have 7. In some states, they'll have as many as 9, which I think is ridiculous because then you've got a bogged down school board meeting and no decisions are ever made that are right. But anyway, they tell you that you can disagree on a vote behind closed doors. You're not supposed to vote behind closed doors. You're not supposed to have those discussions behind closed doors. But once the vote is taken, you're supposed to support it. Again, wrong. That is not true. If I didn't support this vote before we discussed it or it was on the agenda, I don't support it afterwards either. And I'm going to say so. That's your right as a school board member. So when you say purpose, there's a purpose, meaning that school board members typically, what their job really is to hire, fire, and evaluate the treasurer and the superintendent. Their job is to approve all policies, all curriculum, the bylaws, the strategic plan, the mission, the vision. So governance. Their purpose is to govern, but based on their community's desires, not on other special interests that'll be in that school.
So I'm going to use the name Danny because I don't know a Danny that's been a school board, and I'm just going to use that as like a John Doe figure. So Danny got on the school board, and Danny was flooded with emails. and I mean a lot of emails. Danny was constantly being talked to by the opposition on the school board because there's a resistance. There is a resistance. When people got on, Danny got on with great intentions. Danny walked away with his tail between his legs and resigned and said, I got to go. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Because Danny's kids were being, I wouldn't say threatened, because we talked to go to the police.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of threat. It's the resistance pressure that
It's a bullying.
it's a bullying. And then all of a sudden kids started to pick them. Oh, your dad, your dad's trying to rock our school district. And now all of a sudden they're trying to pull all these innuendos that you're a bad person and start to create this false narrative about you. He had a hard time with that. And then his wife started to get talked to at Kroger's. And then all of a sudden she's getting resistance. Hey, you really need to back off. And this is a planned attack.
Yeah.
This is rules for radicals. The email, he would get hundreds of emails a week to adjust him and get his to back down on his vote. And then when he went to vote on the school board, he made some votes that I disagreed. And I'm like, Danny, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That is not why we got you elected in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have no idea what I'm up against.
Yeah.
None. So now we have people that don't want to run for school boards.
Sure.
And that's tough because they're afraid of cancel culture. And they're afraid of the defamation of character. And they're afraid of walking tall. Problem I have with that, I get made fun of. I'm American Don, and I stand to these values. And people tell me all the time, you need to stop. I had a guy the other day, you need to stop doing that. You really need to stop. And I'm like, so if God sat with me on my deathbed and said, you really let me down, I never want that to happen. I fear that more than I fear any human that could come after me. So I've got a friend that's going to run for school board. I want you to interview him. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay. His name is Robert Peters, and he's going to step into my chair. He's running for Milford School Board, and he's got the guts to do it. I vetted him, and I believe in this, but I want to see your opinion of him. So we're going to switch.
So a live opinion piece. So again, my opinion doesn't matter, guys. My opinion doesn't matter.
Your opinion?
Oh, thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
I appreciate that. Hello.
So I, of course, share an interest in running for Milford School Board, and my background knowledge of you yourself and your previous go-to experience and what your wisdom. Can you possibly ask some questions or some information from me, just a real quick short opinion here of something that may make me a more proficient candidate, provides me a better opportunity to provide much more of an actual education and experience I can affiliate to the school district and our students that attend it?
Yeah. So why would you be running for school board? What motivates you?
I'm a father, and I have seen, in a political realm here, specifically in Milford, in which the district in which I live, I have seen a lot of, I don't want to always say that there's corruption. There's corruption in everything, but not so much just the wrongdoings, but poor decision-making skills on the general thought concept. I think I've heard most recently thrown my way was, Robert, you've never been a teacher. You had public safety as your background, your stuff. Why are you in this field? And I think I really feel like saying, me, myself, speaking only for me, that why don't we have someone with some business sense or some understanding on how to fiscally be responsible for our students instead of just constantly asking for more and more money from people, expecting to make poor decisions. If you got a bleeding hole, a wound, you stop the bleeding. And I think right now we're bleeding more than we know. We're bleeding out, and we're about to start going backwards on things, recessing. And that doesn't have to happen. I mean, there has to be some, conservatives, liberals. It doesn't. I want to stay away from that topic in general. And I want to more or less say, hey, we're human beings. And if we're to stop something and get back to a position we can maintain what we have and grow on it, then I'm open-minded to having a voice and an opinion for so many constituents. And I'll follow it up with one second thing before I allow you to ask the next question is, bullying seems to be the number one topic in multiple school districts, okay? But specifically in the Milford School District, I hear a lot of, not just in the recent months, it's really sad and disheartening to drive through a drive-through here locally. And while someone recognizes me and my interest in running, said, please, I have a young man he's pigeon-toed, and everybody calls him Daffy Duck, and they pick on him at school. And they don't realize that I'm not bashing just the people who have the mental health concerns that are the actual individuals doing the bullying, but I don't think we facilitate other than, slapping on the hands and correcting possible expulsion or, giving punishment. And we as board members enact policy to help protect these children, when they're in our custody for 9 or 10 hours during a school day, from the time they're on the bus to the time we drop them off for the day. I want to be able to give those children back in the same way, or hopefully better than then they came to us. And when I find that there's, consistent amount of times that I say that people are bullied, and when it is presented to not just the board, when it's presented to the school district, they have policies to implement. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that they're not doing something, but I think a lot of it may be, as I've heard from someone even this morning, it's pushed under the rug, right? It's not my problem right now. It didn't happen on my watch. I didn't see it, so I'm going to turn a blind eye to it. And I don't know whether to consistently say that's wrong or right, or whether that's something that they were indoctrinated into. This is the way we treat this.
So you're hoping to get in there and just answer a lot of your own questions,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
also then communicate those answers to your community members.
That's correct.
So
I want
it
to be
sounds
transparent.
like you've got several issues, which is normal for a candidate to have several things that they're going to run for and just investigate. I mean, your job is to ask a lot of questions and insist that you get the answers and insist that those answers be accurate. That was an issue that we tended to have on the school board. But some of those issues you said are financial. So in Springboro, when I was on the school board, we had attempted to pass 4 levies, or a levy, 4 times before I got on the board. The other board members, the other 4, voted to put the levy back on the ballot. And I simply said that I think our community is spoken, and I think we should listen to them. I think we should start respecting what they're saying, and they're asking us to spend differently. And so I did ask lots of questions. I asked for lots of records, and I got a lot of that pushback that we've talked about. People telling me, how dare you? Who are you? Our treasurer had been there 10 years, and I was asking for monthly credit card statements for the last 3 years. I was asking for every employee's W-2. I was asking for a whole lot of things that I'm pretty sure he wasn't used to answering. But as a person who was elected to bring accountability, and the finances were the biggest issue at that time, yes, they can spend differently. And so that's what we were finding out, is I was seeing some things that I thought, I don't think the community would support that. And I would write a little article or a little speech, and I would put it on my website, and I would also read it at the board meeting, that I think our community wouldn't support this thing that we're doing, spending money that way, that it doesn't put the children first. And I think that's what the community wanted us to do. So there was lots of ways to communicate your financial stuff. But at this point, you only have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And going on the board, you're going to be able to hopefully get access to the answers a little bit faster than an average community member would, who has to public records request. You shouldn't have to do that as a board member if you get on the board. The other thing that you mentioned was bullying. And I think that's an appropriate question these days, because there are articles now coming out nationally about school districts in certain states, or just the whole state in general, having this chronic truancy rate that is through the roof. For example, we have Xenia City Schools, 33% of their students don't want to come to school. Okay. Chronic truancy means those students don't want to come to school. They don't have excused absences. We're not talking about students with excused absences. We're talking about just not showing up. We have to talk about the bullying. I like that you brought up that subject. Bullying is a huge problem, but it's not necessarily child on child. These students are being bullied with the curriculum. The curriculum is making lots of them feel bad about themselves. We have Dr. Aaron Schmidlin was one of our speakers at one of our summits that we had here in Ohio, and we will have another one in maybe August or September. But his whole expertise is on how this CRT, SEL, and the things that are embedded in our curriculum are making children feel bad. It's in and of itself racist, and it is making children more violent. The research points to that. So the bullying is coming from something that the school district has done to them. That has to stop.
Right.
We need board members in there saying, I want to look at every single bit of that curriculum. I want it all. And you're entitled to it all. The community members are entitled to it all. Parents are entitled to it all. And they might say this is proprietary. That's not true. If they've got a company who's saying you can't share the contents of what you're purchasing with your community, then you don't purchase it. It's that simple, school district. And that's what a board member needs to say. If we can't see everything that is in front of these children, then it doesn't happen. It doesn't get in front of these children. It has to stop. Did you know that the suicide rate among our teens has quadrupled since SEL, social emotional learning, was embedded in our schools? Social emotional learning is not helping children form character, is not helping them with their emotional stability. It's making them unstable. And the reason we need all these counselors spending tons more money is because it's embedded in the curriculum. This destabilization of their pillars. These children have to have, I call it their foundations, which are footers. built my own homes, the last several homes. So I call it the footers. They're removing the footers, and they're embedding in SEL curriculum things that destabilize these children. Being destabilized, meaning that they're bad-mouthing their country. They're no longer patriots. That used to give children stability, faith, and pride in where they were born and where they're being raised, and happiness about that. Their faith is being destabilized. It's being made fun of. When you say that the only answer for mankind is evolution, a great big explosive accident. How can you gain stability in that theory? It's a theory. Why wouldn't you give them multiple theories and tell them to go home and ask their parents which ones they believe and why? That would be adding stability to children. But the other thing is family. They're destabilizing the family and telling them that a family can be a lot of different things, and that, you don't need a father. Lots of people don't have those. And they're bad-mouthing the family. They're telling children to go ahead and start writing down every time you hear your parent cuss and come tell us. Or every time they might run through a stop sign. You'll appreciate that. Every time they might have an infraction, the children are supposed to write it down and bring it in and tell everybody. So they're teaching them to tell on their families. Again, creating this instability in at least those three things that usually children would gather stability from. And then they're asking them, why are you bullying? Well, you just destabilized their whole world. Why are they bullying? They're anxious. They're sad. They're angry. They're angry because they're being called racist, systemic racism. And they're not. And they know they're not. So they see injustices embedded in the curriculum in small droplets and small sound bites. Every school board member should form committees of their friends, family, constituents that they know are common sense. I no longer use the word conservative because it's been tainted by lots of people who took it and abused it. So what I want to say is common sense. It's common sense you don't make children feel that they're inherently bad, that their country its foundations were bad, that their faith is silly. You don't do that to children. It's abusive. But because it's being done, our children are far more likely to abuse and far more likely to not want to come to school. You can't educate a child that doesn't show up. And even if they show up, are they really there? Are they really thinking? No. Pornography, all the things that we're doing to these kids, indicating that, this is all normal, it's all okay, is destabilizing them. So I say there's a lot of questions that you should have as a candidate, a lot of questions you should have as a school board member. And your job is to bring those questions forward for your community. Get some of the answers, or at least if you can, get some of those answers and take it to the community and say, here's the answers to my questions and yours.
I thank you so much for those examples and that wisdom. I would take, and also, like those viewers who listen to this podcast and things that get out, to understand and know that it would be my hope, and I think at one point or multiply through your career and your school board term, that it is my hope that ideally, not reference your race, religion, color, that we can still come together, and we may not agree on everything, but we can have understanding that ultimately, as you said very clearly, we've got one boss, right? The man upstairs controls what I do. I can't speak for everybody else, but he controls what I do. And I'm not here to please everyone, but I'm here to do what's in the best interest of the children that attend in this district. And I look forward to future conversations with you, ma'am. And thank you so much for the opportunity to answer some of my questions.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope we continue on, because lots of people have these same questions. Why should I run for school board? Because we need common sense people to be on these school boards, asking common sense questions, getting answers, and conveying it to the community. And it's not, the districts have made it about the cash. Okay, let's stop worrying about the cash. Our academics are plummeting. Let's worry about our academics.
What had you said real quick? What had you stated to me a little bit before the podcast in regards to, other than different rates, but statistically, a lot of our, and you don't have to specify school boards, but a majority of them are failing. They're not meeting the criteria. And again, like I said, it's a later topic to obviously go into, why that we're in that position that we're in. But that's really sad to think that, you can be an accelerated school for academics, or you could be one for, your football team is great. And I just see that, like I said, I think we should be a well-rounded school district, not just for ourselves, but, whatever it takes to get to that reason you're going to school and you're attending for an education. And I would like to see that whatever that takes, including if it's the proper technology or the theology or what is being taught, that it be in our school system so we can come out higher than most of these other countries that are whipping the tar out of us.
Right. Right. Our PISA scores have shown that we've just been on the decline. Probably the other way around for the viewer. Been on the
Yeah.
decline for a couple decades now. It's getting quite embarrassing because we spend more money than any other nation or any other education system per pupil. So it's not about the cash. We've been bleeding communities dry, and that's what you're saying. They're done. These communities are done. They don't have any more money. Their property taxes are sucking them dry, and they can no longer, many of them, live in their homes for the property taxes. And 60% of your property tax goes to the school. So if anything in your property tax bill is making you have to leave your home because you can't afford your mortgage and your taxes, it would be the school districts. And yes, they can spend differently. In Springboro, we failed that fifth levy. They went ahead and put it on the ballot. We failed that fifth levy by more than it had failed by before. And maybe it's because I helped a group of people put together a newsletter that we put at 10,000 Driveways, indicating that we needed a 12-step program for our spending addict school, and showed them many different charts that showed what we were doing with the money and how we didn't actually need it. And that fifth levy failed by more than it had failed by before. So the other board members looked at me and said, "Kohls, what do you want?" And I said, I just want to listen to the community. They're telling us to spend differently. So after a couple other guys got elected, because I suggested that we elect them, I became the board president, much to the noise in the audience. I didn't like that at all, but I became the board president. We changed things quite a bit. We found that $30 million they said they needed, and we found $12 million more. So we were able to put the children first and buy a whole new fleet of buses, increase our IT, our bandwidth on much of what we did. We got everybody Chromebooks. We did a lot of things that put the children first in our budget. So yes, it can be done. We did it. We didn't need a levy.
Well, and in closing to my portion of this conversation, I definitely am going to take you up and soak up more wisdom from you. And I look forward to talking with you much more on other podcasts and really gaining experience and knowledge going into not just this race, but overall for other possible future candidates and or school board members who actively would like to research and talk more about with it.
Well, Robert, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And I want you to know that we have now a support system for school board candidates and board members.
Yes, ma'am.
That is not like the old 65-year-old teachers union arm. And we're going to train you how to be a good school board member.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not going to be easy, guys. If you're going into this to be an easy elected position to maybe be part of a rung on your ladder, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have a lot of opposition because common sense and putting the students first is not in our public school systems. But that's why people like Robert are running. They want to make it that way.
I do. Well, thank you so very much, ma'am. I'll hand it back to you, sir.
Clipping back in, that was...
I hope I'm answering things the way
yes.
I could go off on a tangent pretty easily. And
we're going to have time for that. And I know that prior to starting this episode, you talked about possibly doing this on a regular basis with us.
Yes.
We would love to have you.
I would love to do that.
My producers are like, oh my gosh, yes.
Cool.
So we're definitely in
I'd
for
love
that.
to do that.
And we'll talk about it. I want to put it to a vote for my crew, but I like School Board 101.
Yeah, I like that too.
Just do a School
like that
Board
too.
101. And people can come in and talk to you that hopefully current school board members can come in and sit down. So we have a space here, and it's RX space, and it's on State Route 28 in Claremont County, and we have 50 chairs, and people can come in from all over and watch the show, and we can take audience questions, people that want to know about audience. And I have a few in front of me. I'm teeing that up.
Okay.
I told them I was going to be interviewing you. I said, hey, what do you got?
Yeah.
So Mike asked, can we get term limits for school board members? I thought we have them.
No, we have people like Bobby Grice in Little Miami, who's been on that school board for, I think, 28 years. But I'd have to say there's only one reason you're on a school board for 28 years. It means that you've been what I like to call feckless bobblehead, and you ask very few questions. And so there's nobody opposed to a person who sits there and smiles and just says yes to everything on the agenda. That would be the reason that you stay there for that long. And those are usually, Robert mentioned it. People asked him, why are you running? You've not been an educator. What we need on our school boards is people who are not educators, because the former educators, if they're retirees or they just quit for some reason and went into something else, those are usually the people who just say yes to everything on the agenda because they believe there's nothing wrong with the system, and don't have to ask questions. They believe the rhetoric and they've drank the Kool-Aid that they're just supposed to do what the superintendent treasurer tells them to do, which is not true, not part of their job. That's the reason somebody would stay there that long. So having term limits, I think, would be a real plus, because we get those people who are entrenched and who really aren't doing anything to hold the system accountable. Move on, move on.
Yeah.
Let's get school board members there who actually know what their job is and want to do it. So that's what I would say, is that we need to empty that seat from people who have been there too long and are not doing anything. There's very rarely do the good common sense school board members get reelected. And if they do, it's usually not for a third term. So I would say that we have a maximum of maybe 8 years, 2 terms. That's plenty. I got a lot done in just 4 years. I did not run again. Was not interested in running again. I had what I could see was another job for me. I think God inspired it. I prayed for 4 years. Why am I here? This is miserable.
Well, and it makes sense. So someone that's been there, done it, bought the T-shirt, that's the person I want to train the new crew coming in, the new people coming in.
Yes, and make that an example, and know that as a school board member, if you're doing your job, you will get opposition. You will get people saying that you're doing the wrong thing. Don't agree.
Politics.
It's called politics. It's
Yeah.
called being an elected representative, and you're going to represent and not listen to necessarily the noisy people in your community, because they don't represent.
You know, our forefathers, I need to reference this. I'm old school, so I need to go back. Our forefathers, way back in the day, they were shop owners. They were innkeepers. They were people that were in the community. And when it was time for the meeting, for the local town to meet, they locked their doors. They walked down to the meeting or rode their horse, went to the meeting, heard what they were trying to do to the community, made their vote, got done, went back, unlocked their shop, and went back to work. They were volunteers. They were 100% volunteers. And I know school boards in Ohio get $125 per meeting stipend.
Maximum.
So it's not a lot of money.
No.
So you're like, well, how are you in there so long, or why are you in there so long? Florida, though, you brought to my attention, I did not know this, like in the state of Florida, there's a salary.
There's a salary.
Like up in like a high salary?
Yeah, up to 70,000 in some cases.
70,000 a
The size
year.
of the district, I think, and how many board members. I don't know how their formula works, but yeah, it's a lot of money. And in Ohio, $125. Some states, there's zero. You are a volunteer. And the paycheck itself tells you how much work they expect you to put into it. So when you don't pay for an elected representative, but you pay for city council, you pay for township trustees, you pay for every other elected representative gets paid a good salary, at least 20 grand in Ohio. Plus they participate in the benefit packages. In Ohio, school board members cannot participate in the benefit package, which I agree with, but I don't think any representative should be able to participate in the benefit package that they're voting in for their employees, because that's how we get these Cadillac packages with adult orthodontia and all kinds of things added in there, the cost of the taxpayers a fortune, and increase our taxes. I don't think any elected person should participate in the benefits that they put in to the employee.
Vote in,
That's conflict. All over it. That's written conflict. So I'm okay with that. But I'm saying if you're going to pay city council, township trustees, and every other level of government, then pay a school board member a living wage, because $125 tells them that they should just show up and say yes to everything on the agenda. It's why we are where we are in academics. It's why we are where we are in student safety and in the lack of transparency. Because school board members, why would you invest a whole lot of time and energy and emotion when there's no compensation? All you're going to get is ridicule and criticized, canceled. So if that's the case, it's easier to just say, look, I'm doing my job. If you're getting paid, like it's a job. So I want either everybody paid or nobody paid. But this disparity between public offices has got to stop. And we have to start paying our school board members what they're worth.
And I think Robert's running for Milford School Board. I've said this, and he's a friend of mine, and I have had good sit-down talks. He's somebody I would trust. So there's an old adage: would you trust them to run your inn while you were away? Would you trust them to come and run your business? Would you trust them to watch your books and to watch your, crew, your staff, make sure everybody's running the right way? And then it would be safe when I got back that there was growth and there was good stuff. And
Yeah.
Robert's a person I would trust for that. You are a person I would trust for that. All right, Lisa. Lisa came in. I got questions prior to the show. Identifying intervention services. So when we're bringing in mental health, and I know that we've had some issues locally in the greater Cincinnati area, we've had some issues with students having a hard time. We have some school districts that have some high rate of suicide, high rate of mental health. These intervention services that get brought in, and I know I did a podcast not long ago for Julie, and Julie's daughter committed suicide, and we're very sorry to hear that. Any child dying is a tragedy. As she went through all this, the intervention services were pretty boilerplate. They were pretty much, well, we did everything we could do, and I'm not here to blame any school district at all. I'm here to say we're reaching out to the wrong people for help because I think that school boards are ill-equipped to run the mental health capacity. They're not therapists. They're not psychologists. They're not there to say you need to go get on medicine. They're not. Big pharma runs a ton of what's happening around us. So Lisa says identifying the intervention services. How is that done in school boards?
How do you identify the intervention?
Who brings that in? Who votes in to have a suicidologist on staff?
Well, board members have to approve every hire. Every single one of them. So the board members are allowing it. But usually it's because the administrative staff is saying we need this help. Well, I think you need the help because your curriculum is making them crazy, sad, depressed, mad. So let's look at the curriculum first. If I were a board member, I'd say, okay, let's put a pause on hiring more intervention specialists. And let's figure out whether we want to become a medical facility or an education facility. Let's focus on what we do and what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
But also let's have a deep dive into the value or lack of or harm caused by our curriculum. Let's have an independent agency come in here and look at our curriculum, do a audit of our curriculum, because there are experts out there that will look over this curriculum and be able to tell you that this is age appropriate, not age appropriate, actually harmful. Let's let some other people do that. Well, then you get this massive amount of union thug, I call it, union thug backlash. How dare you not trust the experts, our teachers? How dare you think, well, our teachers were trained in the same school. They were trained in these certification programs in higher ed that we all know have gone a different direction from what's healthy for children. And they agree with some of the curriculum. Like, okay, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. They're actually being interviewed where the district personnel are looking for those characteristics. The ones that say, yes, you're all inherently racist. If you're white, you're bad. If you're some other race, then you're oppressed by the white people who are the oppressors. By American history, we were formed on the foundations of savages. Stuff like that. If they believe that, that's what they're going to teach, and that's what they're going to embed in many different things. But everybody needs to look at these teaching manuals, the supplemental materials that the teachers use to teach. So, for example, we found some math problems in Big Walnut near Columbus. And the math curriculum said, well, something like Sally got 4 apples and Johnny got 5 apples. How do you think it made the students feel when there was a disparity in the number of apples? Teaching children to think emotionally and not intellectually is messing with their minds. That's got to stop. So they didn't adopt that once somebody found that in an instructional manual. So it's not just the answer is what, 9? I think it was 9.
Right.
It's how did people feel about 9?
God.
I mean, it has no place. It's, again, teaching children to think emotionally, because then you can manipulate how they think emotionally. You can tell them that
Yes.
killing an unborn child is okay because it's choice. But the fact that there might be less polar bears is incredibly sad. I mean, it's just a mind manipulation. It's part of what you would call a cult. And we try to stop cults, right? But it's happening in our schools, and it's messing with children's minds in so many ways. That's the reason we need more counselors. But the school district is not prepared in any way,
Right.
legally, medically, with HIPAA, with anything else, not prepared
Right.
to handle that. You're educators. Let's stick to what we are supposed to be doing well, and we're not. We're failing at that. Let's
Yes.
fix what we're failing at, and then tell the parents that their child has a need, as yet undefined, but you think it that might include a counselor.
When I look at test scores or look at how students are doing, you said something earlier, and I want to come up with the right language when I talk about this stuff.
Okay.
So as the test scores are coming out, or how kids are doing, and it's been brought out on a federal level that we have 8th graders that cannot read at a high school level when they're going into high school. And I know that there are some candidates that have actually taken the opportunity and talked about China's way ahead of us. China's 3rd grader is our 8th grader. So that scale, what do you call that?
Proficiency.
Just proficiency, just
Well,
a proficiency scale?
That's what they call it, guys. But I need you to understand. In Ohio, we have such a fraudulent system that refers to students as being proficient. But do you understand that in 3rd grade math, for example, a student only has to answer 48% of the questions correctly to be called proficient?
Wow.
I don't think anybody would call that proficient. And then I think it's 4th grade math, it's like 38%. That's all they have to answer correctly. So in Ohio, for example, back when I was on the school board in 2010, and I think I announced this in 2012, I said, look, is anybody else here concerned that 1 in 4 of our students in Springboro doesn't meet the minimum competencies to get into college? Is anybody else concerned about that? And we were one of the best. We were one of the best. And somebody walked up to me after that meeting, because I did say it out loud. And by the way, OSBA, Ohio School Board Association, would tell school board members, don't say things like that. Don't air your dirty laundry in public. And I thought, that's the only way it gets attention.
Yes,
I'm going to go ahead and
yes.
say what this community needs
Be
to
transparent.
hear.
Absolutely.
What they need to hear. And if there's some fallout from it, that's not my problem. My problem is being transparent with my community. So anyway, somebody walked up to me after that meeting and said, well, Dr. Kohls, don't you know that most schools do worse? I said, wow, that doesn't bring me comfort.
Right.
That does not bring me comfort,
You're proving my
knowing that other
point.
schools do worse.
Yes.
But at the time, 41% of Ohio students, when they took the ACT, didn't score high enough to meet the minimum competencies to get into college, right? 41% back in 2012. Guess what it is today? 75% of Ohio students do not meet the minimum competencies to get into college.
I want to stop, and I apologize. I'm interrupting. That's not acceptable.
Right. It wouldn't be to anybody.
So if I worked for Procter & Gamble and we were in a business meeting and saying that this department's failing that bad, you would be fired.
Bingo.
And now we're just like, well, let's just let them, it's for the kids. It's for the kid. No child left behind.
Don't hold them back. And that stopped happening, is holding students back that weren't on performance levels, certain performance levels. So it's just sad. The way that the expectations have been written and benchmarks and what a student has to meet to proceed to the next grade is just incredibly low. They don't have to be proficient. Oh, they can be far lower than that to proceed to the next grade. Now, I'm saying a good school board member would go in there and say, guys, why don't we have minimum competencies to proceed to the next level? Why don't we? I want to know why we don't. Is it a money thing? Is it about the cash? Is it about what's best for children? Is it about their parents wouldn't like us holding their student back? I'd say have a discussion with the parent. Just say, look, Johnny or Sally is performing at this level. I think they can do better, but I think they need to have a catch-up year where we catch them up. Because you can't take a 3rd grader who can't read and progress them to the 4th grade and expect them to do any better the rest of their career.
You're set up to fail.
Their academic career is
Yeah.
set up to fail. So we have this school to prison pipeline, and it's fairly well identified that if they can't read and can't do math at a certain proficiency level in 3rd grade, that's what's creating the criminals of today, or perhaps the children who are doing violent things or bullying others, is because they know they can't read. They know they can't do math. They know they should be able to count change back to somebody. They know they should be able to tell time. They know they should be able to maybe read cursive. When they can't do these things that lots of people are criticizing them for, it's the school's fault that they can't do this.
I see. And I'm out and about a lot. I do travel a lot, and it's amazing. A lot of, and I'm not making fun of anybody. A lot of these people can't count change back to you.
Right.
They sit there and they go, and I'm like, oh, what? And we're starting to really see this. Are you guys seeing this? Do you see this at the speedways? Do you see this at the Wendy's? Do you see this when you're out and about? People struggling. That's a product of American
Public schools.
Because
Because these children have the aptitude to do it.
Yes.
They do. We have to set bars and make sure they meet those bars before they progress. Don't take them on to 4th grade if they can't do simple math and reading.
So I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and I want to watch our time because I know people have a hard time with long podcasts.
Yeah.
However,
Wow.
this is I want more of this, right? I want more of
It
this.
has
I
value.
need to know
Yeah.
more. And there's a lot of questions that aren't getting answered that you're able to come to me and go, wow, I'm connecting the dots.
Mhm.
You're not populating my brain. I'm
Right.
listening to what you're having to say and going, well, that makes sense. Why are they doing the rainbows in the classes? Like, so this is a Louisa, right? I know Louisa, and her grandson, they had to fill this out, and it's called The Rainbow in Me. And this is a rainbow they got put out to a child, and he is, I believe, 4. He's in preschool. And the rainbow in me, my eye color is, and you fill out a color. My hair color is, you fill out a color. My skin color is, you fill out a color. My favorite color, my second favorite color, the color of my fruit, and I'm getting to this level. What are we doing here?
Right. I don't know.
Right? I don't know either.
Some kind
But
of
it jumps out.
self-assessment.
There's a smell test to this that I'm going, why rainbow? You could do that with an apple is red and an orange is orange, right? A grape is grape. I don't know why all that's being implemented.
Yeah, we're
Things
certainly-
like that jump out in my brain
We're
going,
suspicious of every kind of
Yes.
agenda that is in our schools because we know there's a lot of agendas embedded in our schools. But overall, what we're seeing is plummeting of academics,
yes,
but an increase in instability,
yes.
right?
Now, some people are
Creating suicides.
Yes, yes. I never ever want any child to feel like you have to. And if you can hear me and you're a child, you can always reach out to my website and say, I need help. And I'm going to do everything I can to fight for you. I'm going to be here for you. That's what we do. However, it's not cool to reach out for help. It's not cool to say, hey, I'm struggling. It's not cool. And then you can get made fun of. It's a sign of weakness, and it's not. I've reached out for help. I've reached out for help many times in my life, and I've had some angels, I call them, that help me through a lot. And for me, I have to just say a shout out. Lots of questions were thrown at me. I'm going to do one more with you. So a taxpayer stops school. How can a taxpayer stop schools from taking money out of the employees' checks for union dues? So somebody works for the school,
Yeah.
right? And it's Bonnie. Bonnie reached out and said, I don't want to pay union dues because they're taking my union dues and they're using them for things like protest.
Political causes.
Political causes.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be a part of that because they feel like they're feeding the enemy, basically.
That's right.
Right?
That's
So
right.
do they have the right to say, I'm not paying and still get the right benefits that the union provides?
Well, there is in the collective bargaining unit, they are not allowed anymore to charge people that don't want to be a part of the union. So if you don't want to be a union member, you fill out a little form and say, I'm not going to be a part of the union. But yes, you do have the right to benefit from their negotiations. The contract would apply to you anyway. So you don't have to pay those union dues. And I don't know what it is these days. It was back in, I think, 2012, it was $600 a year. We also, though, believe, and this is what the school board should advocate for, it's written in the contract, is that if a teacher, let's say, is a member of the union, the school treasurer is responsible for taking the money out of their paycheck every month and giving it to the union.
Wait. What?
Yes.
It's not a shop steward?
No.
The school treasurer,
No.
who's in charge of the
Yeah,
education,
yes.
the fiscal responsibility
Yes.
of the students, is taking money out for
Right.
political reasons.
So the taxpayers, the community, is paying for the treasurer's time to remove money out of these
Good
people's
money,
paychecks
yeah.
and then give it to the union. The school district should be totally hands off on any kind of cash transactions on this. So the community and the school board needs to insist that the treasurer be removed from any responsibility for removing money from people's paycheck to pay union dues. Treasurer shouldn't do that. The union should be billing their membership separately from the district. That's in their contract. So negotiate within the contract that that the district will have nothing to do with money transactions when it comes to the union. They won't pay them for anything, just none of it. You're off limits there.
So I've got lots of questions that have been sent in by you guys, and I appreciate that. We're here. This is what this whole, to give a voice to your ideas and what you're thinking, your smell test, right?
Yeah.
To be able to come in and be like,
Yeah.
something's not right.
Yeah.
What are they actually doing here? And I mean, this is all for educational purposes. We're not here to advise anybody. We're not telling you how to live your life. We're trying to just bring experts to the table that have been there and say, hey, this is what's happening here. This is how this is going to work. So, we're going to put it to a vote. We're going to figure this all out. I like School Board 101. We're going to start doing a show. And I don't know what's your time frame. Can you do it bi-weekly?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm willing to commit to this show, guys. We're going to do this bi-weekly because we're in a time where we're getting ready to leave school. go through the summer, and then go back into school. And there's school board elections coming up. And I know Claremont County, there's a lot of openings. If you want to know more details about it, you could reach out to me and let me know. My information is now on the screen. We're also going to put your information out for them to
good.
be able to come to you
Yeah,
and
I was
ask
gonna
questions.
say, you have a support system now. You actually have Leadership Institute, SBAE, us, and then there's a few other organizations out there. There's one here in Ohio, which is a network of Common Sense School Board members. So you have a support system now that didn't exist back when I was on the board. I was very lonely, very beat up, but that's okay because I have a Teflon coat on. This isn't fat. I always say it's thick skin.
Absolutely. And I'm very appreciative that you're on our show and that you're a part of our community. It means a lot. And you've taken a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they've come at you to cancel you and try to cancel
Yeah,
culture.
see, no bruises.
Yeah, right.
It's all good.
And we're still standing here. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to another show coming up really soon. School Board 101 is what this episode is leading into, a bi-weekly show with Dr. Kelly Kohls.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This is great. God is in the middle of all this with us. Keep our word with the God. And we do believe in the faith. We do believe in the unalienable rights that were handed to us by God. And we're going to stand here and protect it. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States.